Hey, Lauren. Thanks so much for joining us on the Business Your Way podcast. I was excited when you agreed to come on the podcast and share your journey because your business has grown so much over the last a couple of years, I think. So I would love if you could kick us off by introducing yourself, who you are, what you do, and how you make your moolah.
Most certainly. Firstly, thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here chatting with you. And so at my agency, Thea Media, we serve health, wellness, and beauty businesses across Australia. We've got a whole range of clients, across the country, which is really cool. And we focus on social media, search marketing, and email marketing in particular. So very much our focus is on increasing their visibility online so we can help them generate more traffic, more sales, and scale their businesses.
Nice. In a done for you, obviously, being an agency.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So we're solely focused on done for you support.
Nice. I like that. Like that lots. Is there one of those, before we dive in elsewhere, is there one of those that is more popular than the other? You know, social media, like short-term, like visibility in the now industry, SEO, long game, like traction on driving traffic, and then email marketing. Are you seeing, like, are your clients fitting more in one than the other, or is that spread quite even?
So I'm very focused on having a holistic approach to your marketing and very much, looking long term on what you're trying to achieve. So that does actually mean majority of our clients are across SEO, probably the most, the highest majority would be in SEO. Because it does have such longevity, it can be a real game changer, especially for businesses in the health wellness space. But that's kind of, one piece of the puzzle. So majority tend to be there focusing on SEO for the long term. But then we also work across social media, as you say, to get that kind of, instant visibility online, build brand credibility. Email marketing, it does depend where kind of our clients are sitting in their own business life cycle and business journey, to if they're yet dabbling in email marketing. Definitely our bigger clients certainly are, because it is so important for nurturing your current audiences. It can just be such a fantastic channel to have ticking over, just bringing in business. So it is a bit of a variety, but the way we work with them is we kind of try and set them up and explain, almost how digital marketing works. It's not just like, oh, you're signing on, we'll just sign you off on whatever. It's like, oh, well, what are your goals? Okay, we're actually going to focus on SEO first. You're going to work on social media. In 6 months, we're going to start social media ads. And then in another 6 months, we'll start email marketing. It is a bit of a mixed bag, but predominantly search is our big one.
Yeah, nice. And do you get clients who are at the beginning of their digital marketing journey, or they're just ready to ramp up their digital marketing efforts? Like, in that life cycle of business, where do your clients mainly become attracted to you, or where do they outsource? When do they choose to outsource that to an agency?
Yeah, so predominantly most of our clients are established and they're around the 1 to 2 years in business. I usually use the kind of $300,000 turnover annually as a bit of a guide and a good starting point to working with us. Again, just because of our more holistic approach, we're not just, like freelancers doing, a small bits and pieces there. We put together a full strategy for their digital. So that tends to be a sweet spot where they're coming on. But saying that, we do have some that are in the startup space. And honestly, that kind of comes down to my preference with them of seeing someone who has, an awesome business that I just really resonate with. And I want to support them on that journey. It will be a slightly more flexible approach if they're in that startup phase. a lot more guidance. We'll probably take a lot more of the really specialized stuff off their hands, such as SEO or the Google ads, and help guide them on keeping, social and even email marketing in-house. But then at the other end, we do have some, multi-million dollar, clients as well, where we're doing absolutely everything. So it's overall, I tend to find our clients are, family owned. A lot of the time, it may be a female business owner, but she's got the support of her partner who's, involved in the business in some capacity. And we work directly with them as the owner, even if they're, up to that, $1 million plus revenue. And that seems to be a really nice way we work with them, because we've got direct comms, and we are really high touch and really supportive in how we work with them. So it does work quite well.
Nice. Love that you get to work with the business owner. I think that's the sweet spot, right? Is where you haven't been delegated out to a comms or a marketing manager, but you're actually helping the business owner fulfill their business dreams. So that's so special. I just want to dive into keeping with your current business. What does your team look like in the agency?
Yeah, so it is like what would you call it? It's a mixed team at the moment. So I do have a mix of employees and contractors. And even though over the years I've, scaled up the employees, down contractors, and gone back, to try and figure out that mix, what I find is this works really well for me and on the results I can deliver for clients. So with this mix, we've got all Australian, all based across Australia. So it's, I'm on the Sunshine Coast. We've got team in Sydney and Melbourne and Adelaide. And it works really well because, we've got together a combined experience of, well over 30 years, I think, 40 years. So the Sunshine Coast is fantastic and there is a lot of talent, but I have found it hard to hire and find the level of expertise that I want to have on the team. And so working actually, even our team member, in Melbourne, it's someone I used to work with when I was in an agency, who's highly skilled, highly specialized. And, that's what I want. I want that really strong team that can deliver. And having that mix seems to be bang on for me.
Yeah. And that's the main thing, right? Your team is working for you. So you are all remote by default?
We are, yes. Yeah, at the moment. As I said, it's kind of changed over time. I did have an office and I did have local team, and I've had, I've had juniors, I've had interns, but, kind of what I've got now with our youngest is 29, and, it suits us. There is a lot of maturity and a lot of experience on the team. And it does mean we can flow really nicely, which is good.
Yeah, which is great. And a mix of senior, I know you said you've just got one, the youngest is 29, but then mainly you've got seniors who are doing account management, or do you look after all the clients and then just farm out the work? What does that look inside the business as structure, how you organize and structure your workflow?
Yeah, so I am still heavily involved with the clients, and I'm across all of their strategies, but I don't do the account management. So I've got kind of, my key player, and, she's kind of, as you could say, on the leadership team with me. And so she's account manager and main point of contact with clients. So she'll handle all of that, daily back and forth, following up and stuff, sending out briefs, reports, arranging meetings. which also works really well because that has, that was probably one of those turning points in the business when I stepped out of account management myself and I really got to have a proper agency model where I'm overseeing strategy. Still very involved, and there are certain tasks I still do for clients, but overall I'm, growing the business. That's really my focus now, which is great.
That's so nice to hear. That your business is at that point now where you can really step into, your CEO role and look at the majority of your time is spent, how do I manage and grow this business while you've got a team who can look after that delivery aspect and client care and So congratulations, you. That's magic.
It takes time to get there, definitely, but it's great now.
Yeah, it does. And you've got there in rather a short time. So if we backtrack, do you want to share like a bit of your backstory as to where you started in order to get here?
Yes, certainly. So, it's a funny one. It seems like not a short time, but then in other ways, it feels like a long time. So I am actually coming up. I think it's next month. I am actually coming up to 6 years since I initially went out on my own. And it has been a real journey since then. I first, wanted to be a digital nomad. So I was overseas traveling through Europe when I first started the business, which was absolutely incredible. But then I also realized, I could actually do something with this. It's going quite well. And so, then I came back and really did focus on growing it. And that was my, original business, LMF Marketing. And it was, that was as COVID was hitting, going through lockdowns. I was working with a lot of clients from down Melbourne because I had been living there when I initially started, in the beauty space. So, it was an interesting and challenging time to be like, okay, I'm going all in and I'm going to grow it. And then, COVID lockdowns, the massive impact, then the big shift for businesses to go online. So it was a time, of lots of challenges, but also rapid growth in a lot of ways. And those first 4 years of the business were, they were interesting because it was a real, as I say, like challenge, but it was steady growth. Every year we kind of saw 2 to 4 times growth year on year, which was amazing. And it was, and, kind of figuring out what that looks like, all the learnings that go with that. What does my team look like? How do I keep evolving my team? How do I start shifting myself out of the account management role? How do you implement processes to support that and still have the checks and balances in place? That was a really interesting time initially growing it.
And that is probably the point that we probably met towards the end of that, maybe 3-4 years, when you were like, I need like a project management tool. I need to get my systems in order. I need to have a centralized place for the team to work on the projects together, and we all know where it's at and where it's up to, and the pen and paper's not cutting it anymore.
Exactly. Yes. I've been hanging on to my notepad. But yes, that's when I reached out to you and I was like, okay, something's got to change. This isn't working anymore. 6 people can't work off my notepad at home.
Yeah. Nice. And so then you got to that point where growth equaled acquisition of another business.
Yes. Yeah.
Talk to me a bit about, like, you were already on that verge of, I'm growing my business. I need to get my systems and processes in place. This is my obvious next step. And then instead of just continuing on that trajectory that you had of, growth on growth on growth year on year, it was like, let me instantly double my business. What was the thinking behind that?
It is interesting to reflect. I think, logically, there was a lot of, rationalizing it, it'll help shift me from more of that, you could almost say that hero model of a business where, I was the face, LMF marketing was my initials. Even though I had a team and I was growing a team of account managers, there was still very much an expectation when people inquired that they were working with me and I was the one, they would be dealing with every day. So trying to, shift that was like, how do I fully transform into an agency model where, there is a team doing delivery. Clients don't expect me. They know I'm there. They, I'll do sales and bring them on, but that's, they don't expect more going forward. And I guess also, I am someone who's very open to opportunity as well. And, I was in a position where, the business had grown so steadily. I built it so, it was profitable, and I was in a position where I could take that risk. And, before thinking of family planning or anything like that, it was like, if I'm going to do something like this, I may as well do it now and see what happens. And it was definitely, again, you can only do so much due diligence. You can only see so much when you're going through an acquisition. You can't understand the actual ins and outs. And so I knew I was taking on a risk, but I was either positive enough or naive enough, whichever way you think of it, but to think it'll be right. I'll figure it out and I'll be able to make it work. And yeah, that was at the end of 2022 when I took on another social media agency on the Sunshine Coast.
Wow. And that literally doubled your team, doubled your client load, or did it triple that?
No, so it was a smaller agency overall than mine, revenue and client wise. It did increase my team of paid employees that were actually, employees on the books. Yeah. So it was interesting because, quite rapidly I went from, 2 employees, 4 contractors of my own, which were, they were my people that I'd selected, I trained, they knew me. I had a lot of confidence in them, to having 4 extra employees who were younger, less experienced. They didn't have a lot of warning. They only had a week's warning of me taking over and coming in. So, there was a lot of, those first 3 months, initial shock of, hey, I'm your new boss. And as and you helped me establish, we had processes in place. We had I've always had high expectations around customer service and our client comms, and all those things were quite new to them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it was a real interesting journey of me going from, remote working with my team, solid systems and comms in place, to having 4 new junior staff who were all local. So I stepped into having an office space as well, and suddenly being like, hey, I'm your new boss, and I'm implementing systems, because we can't just go back through your emails from 4 months ago for you to give me an update on what's happening with a client campaign. Mm-hmm. That's not going to fly. I need to know what's happening and where these clients are at. So, that was kind of one side of it, and navigating that, and, I guess everything that comes to stepping into a different type of leadership role, when you've got not only younger, and, people in earlier stages of their career, but when you're actually in an office with them as well. And then there was also the other side of taking on, about 50% more clients, straight away, immediately. And kind of navigating campaigns not working, unhappy clients, and bringing them back to a place where they had faith in what we were doing and how we could deliver work for them.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a lot, Lauren. Like 4 new staff and almost 50% more new clients. So not only did the staff have to get used to implementing your systems and doing business your way, but actually the client load also, it was like bringing on half your clients all at the one time and having to almost re-onboard them, reorientate them, redo strategy or pick up the strategy and fill the gaps and create that relationship. That's a lot.
Yes, it was busy. It was very busy. And as you kind of know from, where I had been, implementing great processes, and I was, at a really lovely flexible place with work. I was working, an average of 4 days a week with, spread across the 5 days, and, could pop out for lunch, go to a swim at the beach in the morning. And then suddenly it was like, I'm doing 80-hour weeks to try and just kind of right the ship and, bring things back together. So yeah, it was a shock to the system, definitely.
Yeah. In hindsight now, looking back, what would you kind of say your like top 3 lessons were in that whole process?
So I think, the great thing is, that was end of 2022. And though it was, it was a real slog for that initial transition period. And it was a real challenge, even, most of 2023, as I was navigating, new team dynamics, new, HR issues, different conversations with clients. But all of that did bring a lot of learning. So, I have been able to come through and feel really good about it and what I've taken away. But there has been, upon reflection, some really big lessons. And I think one of the biggest ones was, when I acquired this other business, yes, logically, it made a lot of sense. And it was like, oh, okay, I'm at this level. I bring this on. Okay, cool. I'm hitting that $1 million mark. This is that little extra, bit I was missing. I'll get there. And then it didn't go to plan. And you then question, I did actually lose in myself a lot of confidence in my decision making for a solid 6 months after that, of just like, I can't trust myself. I thought I had this figured out and I didn't. And then I kept kind of looking at, okay, why did I actually do it? Why did I do it? And it very much came down to self-worth and, really actually thinking, I'm not good enough where I'm at in my business. I should have an office. I should have a bigger team of paid employees. By 4 years into business, I should be above the $1 million mark by now. And so it was almost like, I need to do this to prove that I'm good enough at what I do and I'm a successful business. And
wow.
Yeah. And I think that was when So, when I realized that, I was like, okay, that's interesting. That's what I felt I should do. And, especially online, I know so many amazing, agency owners who have been in, growing their businesses on a similar timeline. And you look at them and you're like, well, they're getting more staff and they're going into an office, or, you do that comparison. And I think so much it was subconscious for me. And it wasn't until I kind of went through the journey and really started questioning, okay, this isn't working. I'm not liking it. Why did I do this?
Yeah.
And then actually starting to ask myself, well, what do I want? And what does success look like to me? Because yes, okay, maybe other people, would recognize if you have an office, if you've got, lots of local big name clients or you've won awards, but actually those things don't matter to me. And having a profitable business where I'm earning the wage I want to earn, I have the flexibility and the choice of how I spend my time, and I'm not working big hours or weekends, and I've got a happy team and I've got happy clients. That's actually what success looks like to me. And that really helped me shift my perspective in business, because it was like, hang on, why am I pushing for something that I don't actually want? You do hear of so many agencies that follow a particular growth path, and they do tend to go through similar to what I was experiencing, but this really yucky, potentially 2 to 3 years where they're trying to scale and they're trying to break through from that kind of 15 team member level to the 25, 30 team member level. And, all of the HR nightmares that go with that, all of the drop in customer service that'll happen as you've got high turnover of staff, all of those issues. I was like, I don't actually want to follow that path, so I'm not going to.
Yay you. Like, that revelation in of itself is that not in business, we're not actually following anybody else's model. Like, our business should be what we want it to be, in line with how we want to live our life without having to sacrifice along the way.
Yes.
So that you've come to those questions very early on in your agency program, even though you've had your own business for 4 years, this jump in buying another business and asking yourself those key questions in as little as 12, 14 months, like, that is major. And now you are on the other side of that going, all right, I'm building my business my way because this is what I want for my life.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. There was actually, there was a quote I came across, and I think that was a bit of a turning point. It was like, Alex Hermosi, he's that, big American, businessman. But there was something I came across, and it was saying how, anxiety comes from decisions you're avoiding making. And, kind of midway through last year, 2023, I was stressed. I wasn't sleeping. Things weren't flowing. It's like I knew I had these big goals and I was pushing. I was pushing to try and get there and do the steps you're meant to do to get there, and they weren't working. And I was just feeling, I was feeling that anxiety. It was all yucky. And when I saw that quote, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I need to make some decisions. And that's when I really did start reflecting. And it was like, yeah, why am I pushing in this direction, which doesn't feel good? It takes away all of the things I want. I feel I have to be in the office first and last. I have to go to an office. I have to be present and train a junior team. And it was actually like, oh no, kind of what I was doing before the acquisition of having flexible remote staff of, who are older, more experienced in their roles. That works better for me. And, niching back down, when we, acquired the business, we acquired all these different clients in different industries. And I didn't like working with some of them. It's like, no, actually hospitality, it's not a space I want to be working in. And, no, I don't want to do that. Actually, health, beauty, wellness is what I love, and where we do the best work and best results. Like, why am I working with other people?
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, take me on that journey along, like, pretty much sacking clients, right? Because I know I've done that in my business. I'm like, actually, I didn't enjoy working with you.
Mm.
I thought I was clear about who I enjoyed working with until I got someone again that I didn't enjoy working with. Then you learn your next lesson and you're like, okay, now I need to let you go.
Mm.
Talk us through, like, what did that look like for you, essentially sacking the client?
Yeah. Okay. So it was an interesting. It was a really interesting time. As I said, with the acquisition, it didn't go as expected, which unfortunately did mean, I acquired a lot of very unhappy clients. So, I was kind of from the get go on the back foot with them and trying to kind of make up and prove myself and say, look, we can do the work. Yes, you haven't been seeing results, but, we're doing a new strategy. We're relaunching campaigns. We're starting fresh. Like, it was very scrambling to get back into a good place with them. So it did mean that over those initial 3 months of the acquisition, a lot of those clients that had been acquired, they left us because,
Okay.
yeah, so because they were already so unhappy, it was almost like anything that went wrong was like, the straw that broke the camel's back. I had one of them leave. We, had been emailing, and I was doing the account management with all these people to try and, get them back on side and, make my acquisition investment, worth it.
Worthy, yeah.
Yeah. And we'd emailed and they had replied. I hadn't seen the reply. It was in my spam inbox. And I followed up, 3-4 days later after the weekend, and they said, I did email you. I emailed you on Friday. This is it. I'm done. I'm done with working with you. I've had enough. So it was those type of experiences, which, at the time were absolutely, devastating and soul crushing. I've always really cared about our customer service and our comms and trying to keep them to a really high standard. And, when things like that led to losing a client, I really felt it. But, upon reflection, it's like, well, that wasn't me. They've actually, there were so many things that happened before I even started working with them that led to that being the final straw. So yeah, there was a lot, and they were varied across the industries. That did drop off in those first 3 months. About, I think, 70% of them that we acquired were gone really quickly.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you process that from an investment point of view? Because when you acquire, you're literally buying into that client database and looking at what is then the repeat business and how long it will take you to get your return on the investment that for the acquisition. So when you had that many clients walk out the door, what's going through your mind?
Honestly, I mean, it was really tough, those first 3 months. And, it was made harder because, I had made this decision. There's no one else, you can ever pass the buck to. It was me who had made the decision, thought it was a good idea, and, had money going down the drain, in the sense, it was kind of like, oh, this will be, logically the return. This is the time frame. Even if we lose, okay, on average, we might lose 20%,
Yeah.
kind of talking and, what would normally happen. So to lose so many so rapidly was really, it was really heartbreaking. And as I said, made me question myself a lot.
Yeah.
But I also had this new team that I, had to remain positive for and continue to lead and help try and navigate them through it. So, there would be times when, I was on back-to-back calls with these clients, constantly. And, the staff would hear it and the clients, having a go at me because of, things that have happened that I don't even know about because, it was before my time, and hopping off a call, and then the staff are there worried and they're concerned. And it's like, maintaining professionalism and leadership in those really tough times, even though on the inside I was like, what the hell have I done?
Oh, but now you're on the other side of that and really
Yes.
enjoying your business.
Yes. Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give to someone else who is like considering acquisition as a growth strategy?
I think, as I said, one of the big learnings for me was realizing why I decided to acquire. And actually, a lot of it came from this sense of, lack of not being good enough. So I think doing a bit of, real deep reflection to be like, okay, why am I considering this? And does it actually align with what I want to be achieving? You can get, I think, swept up and, can be very idealistic on, oh, this will be great. It'll go, it'll follow this path. Life doesn't tend to go the way you think it's going to go. And so if in, my situation, the worst does kind of happen, are you prepared for that and willing to, to go through it and potentially make really tough decisions quickly to get back to where you want to go? I think, as, we chatted about before, we started recording, like, I may acquire again, in the future. It hasn't turned me off that, but it has been a journey to be okay with the decision I made, with the experience I had, and to look back and take away the good stuff from it and just be able to learn from the bad stuff. So I think, anyone who is considering, really spend the time thinking on that side, because I looked at the numbers again and again. I knew the risk. I knew what I could handle financially if the worst came to pass, but I didn't spend the time thinking about the other side of, does this actually align to the life I want? If it doesn't go to plan. If it goes to plan, perfect. It's going to, of course it'll align. But if it doesn't go to plan, am I okay with that? And then, just being really sure in, your ability to persevere. Because I think that's like one of the biggest things in business. Like, you don't have to be the best at what you do or the smartest or have the most financial backing, but you need to be able to persevere through times like this. There was, I spoke to a lady who was the other buyer considering this business.
Oh, okay.
Which was really interesting to have those chats. But, we came from two different situations. She was just about to, due to give birth to, her second child. I'm child free still. And, having the chats, it's like, oh, I'm me to her. I'm like, I'm so glad you didn't, because, for where she was at in her life and what was going on, it would have just been such a, schmozzle for her. And it would have all just fallen apart. She would have put so much strain on herself. It would have been an even worse investment for her, than me. due to where she was at in life and what was going on. So I think it's also thinking of those bigger picture things as well.
Yeah, how it's going to impact your life.
Mm.
And even that if that had gone to plan, and you all the clients were aligned and they were all happy to be transitioned, there's still four new staff members and a bunch of new clients to pretty much re-onboard. So that alone still would have taken like a bucket load of work to get into the swing of then business as usual. Gosh,
exactly.
I couldn't have even imagined that when she was just about to give birth to the second child. I'm like, wow, like all of my kids, I've had my business during all of my kids, arrival into the world and as they grow up. But I designed it at that time for that purpose. So, and it looked quite different as the years went on and as the kids got older and my capacity to handle a lot more. So, yeah, just thinking about that gives me
I know. Yeah. I know when she first told me, I was like, oh, thank God you didn't.
Yeah.
We'd have had a lot going on.
Yeah, nice. All right, I've got a system question for you. As you've been like implementing your systems and now you've acquired a new business, and systems have become even more important, like for your agency, what are the most important tools that you have in your business now that you would not be able to like really function without?
So the biggest one is definitely our project management tool. So something that again was really interesting with the rapid expansion of the team and going from them having no processes to trying to implement them was, I can have a process and an idea of what it should be, but it's that team adoption of the process which is crucial. And so we did transition our software we were using a couple of times to try and get better uptake from the team of them actually using it and following the systems in place. So it was around the start of 2023 when I kind of took a step back and I was like, okay, I don't want to bring on more clients. Yes, we've lost heaps, but I don't want to bring on more because I don't have high confidence in our delivery or the customer service being to the level I want it to be at. So we did spend a solid probably 6 months of just being in, this like season of processes and systems. And it can be a hard one, especially, when you've got high costs, you need more clients, and to be saying almost no to new clients while you figure this stuff out. But it's such a crucial piece of the puzzle. And so we are now using ClickUp as our main project management tool. And, we were able to transfer all of our systems over to it following the flows. But it's a program that the team and I have all been able to adopt and actually use. And it's made the world of difference.
Wow.
Even to 5 months ago, we've got one less employee than we did then. And we've actually now got more clients and we're handling it better. It's actually easier. Things are just flowing. We're all less stressed and we know where things are at. And I've got the ability to just check in on everything easily and have that visibility. So yeah, finding something, and for everyone, it's probably going to be different, whatever their business is or how they operate. But, for us, this is the one that's stuck. And it has scalability as well. It's not something we're going to outgrow quickly, which is great.
Yeah. Nice. And I think we have so much choice on the market these days that it is about what works for you, not works for the business next door or the business down the road or the business that's doing what you're doing. You know, it's like what works for us, who are the people on our team, and what are their strengths, what are the ways that they work, because that team adoption is key in agency land. Like,
Oh, yes.
so key. Yeah.
Mm.
So project management tool would be your number one, like couldn't survive without that. Any other key tools that you use?
Well, because we are, flexible, team or remote team, Slack, having like, I absolutely love Slack. We keep, we've got kind of got the two separate, and how we work them. The project management and ClickUp is purely task related. There's no chat. It's like, this is the task that needs review. Here's the feedback or the comments, or, this is where it's at. And we use Slack for, general chat, checking in. Have you seen this new feature? It allows us to like, chat every day fluidly and have just open comms nicely with each other internally, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that like we do as well, is the project management tool that is feedback directly related to the task, any progress on the task, any input required from anyone else happens over there. But over on the chat channel, we use Zoom chat, but same as Slack. It's that we call it the office space for the remote team. It's the chit chat. It's the, good morning. It's just really, you got 5 minutes. Can you help me? Or did you see this? Or I've tagged you over here in the project tool. Like, can you go and have a look at that? Like, if you do that now, then I can do this, because we have a routine in our agency where a morning startup and an afternoon shutdown, everyone does the same thing. So everyone checks the project management tool, checks and clears the Slack, checks and clears their email. Like, everyone's got a little checklist. So then we have confidence that everyone in the team is in the project management tool in the morning and is in there at night, clearing their messages or their mentions or at a minimum. They're probably in there much more than that, but at a minimum, we've got an understanding across the team. But during the day, if we need them to look at something pretty instantly and we're like not sure if they're looking at it because there's no, cadence around that during the day, it's over onto the chat channel. Hey, and then off they go over there and pick up the task or pick up the feedback or what's required. So we love that, like, differentiation between how you communicate as a remote team on tasks and non-tasks, if you like. So
yes, yeah. I do find it similarly works so well, and it is like you say, like the office space, because in a real office you'd still have your project management tool, but you'd be able to just go over and tap them on the shoulder and be like, hey, have you looked at that yet?
Yeah. And that's how I describe it to new staff members. It's like our chat channel is like our virtual office space. So if you just need to like go over there and go, hey, this is how we do that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. To wrap us up, have you got 3 things that you would like to share with others who are growing a service-based business? Any top tips?
Definitely building on from what we just said, systems, just you cannot undervalue them. I think it's in Atomic Habits, and I love the quote, but it's you won't rise to the level of your goals, you will fall to the level of your systems. And I lived that. It's so true. you need to have the systems in place, and yet they're always going to evolve. So don't think, you're going to do them once and they'll be set. It is going to be an ongoing, challenge, but continuing to work on them and implement systems to support you is the game changer. It's what will get you. And for me, every time, initially it got me over, the 10K months. And then it got me over, the 30K months, and then the 50, and then the 60, and it allows space and visibility. And, again, for me, shifting from that kind of hero business model where I was the face and I was the account manager to a true agency where I'm overseeing the business, I couldn't be in this space without having the systems to maintain the level of expectation I've got. So yeah, definitely that's the big one. Apart from that, I would again reiterate, perseverance. It can at times feel so unattainable, but I truly believe, the businesses that last are the businesses that, you persevere with.
Yeah.
It's hard. Business is really hard. Working for yourself, not having anyone else, to be held accountable. It's all on you. So asking those tough questions of like, is this the life I want? And is this what I want to do? And for me, I've always known I wanted to work for myself. It's just not an option any other way. So I keep persevering even through the tough times.
Yeah.
And, I guess building on that is the last, tip or takeaway is continuing to do that personal development. The business definitely forces that, but the times I see the best growth, and that may be, not just revenue, it may be actually I'm building my profitability, or I'm building, more flexibility, but, positive growth in the business. It's when I'm also working on myself, and whether that's, just prioritizing my health and my sleep, or maybe it is journaling and doing some deep reflection on things, or, I'm now bringing in transcendental meditation, into my daily routine. So it's these kinds of things that I think almost need to go hand in hand with building the business, because you are one and the same. Yes, you want to keep them, disconnected, but you are the business as well. So it's looking at how you can keep growing yourself to get the business where you want it to go.
Such valuable tips, and I resonate with all of them because, I've said many times on the podcast, your business is only going to grow at the rate that you are growing as the leader. So if you're not growing as a leader and growing your personal development, your business isn't going to grow beyond where you're at. Even if you are not hands-on in the business will only grow as fast as you are able to allow that to happen. So yeah, we really have to evolve as individuals. And that is something I wish I'd have known like far early in my journey. Like, honestly, it feels like it was something that I learned later in my journey. But again, it was just probably a time and space. We have a lot more available to us now in this digital age that we didn't have when I was starting out in business, for sure. So really good, solid tips, and building that resilient muscle that just gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger over time. So yeah, how many times can you get back up? That's how many times you're going to win.
Yes, definitely. That's it in business. Yeah. Resilience, perseverance, get back up. Oh,
Lauren, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing your journey. I know it's super fresh but I'm glad that you're now in a space where it feels like you are on the other side of all of the hard times. So all the best as you continue forward. I'm sure you're just going to move from strength to strength to strength now and, really have that business that you're envisaging for yourself. So thank you so much for being open, honest, and willing to share. Like, it is just gold for other agency owners to hear what goes on behind the scenes, what goes on in our own heads. Like, we don't get that, very often. It's usually about what systems do you have, what HR practices do you have, what tools are you using. It's all the practical stuff. So that you've been willing to be vulnerable and give us the things that have been rattling around in your head as you navigated the growth. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Oh, pleasure. Thanks, Sandra.